glad you're here with me. I'm Jermaine. I'm your host. I'm the host of the May No Doubt Show. I wanted to actually be with you today so I can share some things and ideas of relationships and parenting and testing your kids and your kids becoming adults, or even thinking they're adult. Thinking deep and just thinking, you know. These are things and topics that, people don't address freely, and they kind of keep it kind of quiet. Some people, uh, they outsource a lot of their information to other people, couples counseling, and all kind of stuff. I mean, but overall, we we don't address those types of things out loud. Now, I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of people out here. I mean, we're going to talk about relationships for one. Excuse me. I guess I want to talk to my phone. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But right now, people really have all kind of relationships. We're going to talk about couples relationships. It doesn't matter whether or not you're, gay or straight. It doesn't matter. Relationships is a complex. Kind of like a carbohydrate. But they they're really complex, and it takes work. It's work that a lot of people don't want to put in. It's like a job. And a job is something that you go to make money. But relationships are even harder because you're not getting paid. I mean, you're gonna do a relationship, some relationships are so difficult that you probably think you should be getting paid just to deal with the relationship. So I got to keep it real about these topics because in order for you to enjoy your life, you got to understand how to manage the relationship. Now, people go through relationships and they either think they're it's spontaneous or something like that, or and you're just supposed to run through sporadically and just keep doing things without actually thinking through or building the core of the relationship, which is friendship. So just by that it means people really don't dig really deep into the relationship, and that's why the sparks kind of stop flying. The fires start to dwindle. I mean, let's paint this picture the right way. I mean, because in the beginning of a relationship, it seems to be fiery, and it seems like a lot of things, unfortunately, it's going to continue to stay that way. People think that the fire is supposed to stay alive. It can if you actually put the work into it. But if you're not going to put the work into it, your relationship is going to fade away. And see, people think that you're supposed to follow these formats of a continuum, and it's not a continuum. You got to put in work. It's just like with anything else. If you buy a car, right, you gotta keep up the maintenance on it, or if not, it's going to die out on you. And it's not like the engines can't be rebuilt, I mean, or building a house, it had to start off with rough framework. See, when you buy a house, buying a house is relative to relationships because in order for the house to stand and you see the end result, you know, nice and pretty, and everything is immaculate the way you wanted it, the way it was constructed by the blueprint and all of this other stuff, and you know, everything is perfectly matched. You got the landscaping, all the flowers and everything is planted out front. Your grass is beautiful and it's healthy and it's green, right? This is the end result that we see in relationships, and when people portray this image publicly, even though they may be miserable. You see people who end up in relationships for a long term, and they really don't understand why the relationship is going bad, because you never spent the time to understand how the structure of it is supposed to be. See, the rough framework is what holds the rest of the house together. But you know, even in the image of somebody's eye, you know, I mean, we just say, right, honey, I want this house built, right? But I don't want to see anything before the end product. So somewhere in there, you know, the person goes and look at the house anyway before the end product. Oh, this house is not exactly how I wanted it to be. Well, how do you know what you want that house to be if you don't know what it takes to make the final product? It's the same thing with your relationship. You know, you look at your relationship and you say, hey, you know, this is not the way I pictured this relationship to be. Well, nobody actually know what it was taking. Did nobody take the time to find out, you know, all the grittiness? And you if everybody approach a relationship and say, hey, let's put all the dirt right on the front table, and we're gonna spread it all over everywhere, and I'm gonna tell you every gruesome thing about me. See, because most relationships start out where people actually only give their best side. And, you know, within the first couple months, usually after the first couple months, then you really see the monster that comes out of people, and that's just the way it is. I mean, people mess around and become real monsters, you know. And then you're like, oh, you wasn't like that in the beginning. No, because people show you, they don't only show you the best part of them in the first few. That's why the sparks is flying, because you're only seeing the good. I mean, you try living with a person for extended periods of time, you'll really see how much of a monster they could be. You know? So you gotta keep it real like that, you know. So I can say I could be a monster. I'll tell you, I'm not gonna give you any false images. No, people are monsters. You know, they fight with themselves. They have two, entities within themselves that they fight with every day, whether or not they're going to be good or whether they're going to be bad. You know, so when you're dealing with people, you got to understand everybody got a bad side, but some people, right, can really bury their bad side. You know, but some people try to pretend that they're really nice, but they are really, really monsters. I mean, sometimes you think that they come out and they got little things that like aliens, man. I'm telling you. And then you come, I mean, but we got a false image of aliens, because we don't know if aliens are good or bad. But anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that. But if they're good or bad or good, I don't really care who and what they're for. So anyway, but people in relationships, they can be aliens or monsters or however way you want to look at it, because they really don't want to tell you that they're not working with you. They don't want to tell you that they're working against you, because they say, "Oh well, honey, yeah, it's okay, no problem," and they brush you off, right? But they really don't want to hear what you have to say anyway. This is the reality of relationships. Now, I mean, we want to talk about parenting now. Now, before you even become a parent, most kids start out, they be like, okay, all right, well, they young adults, and they're like, oh yeah, we go through the practice of, being intimate and, having sex and everything. But they was like, oh yeah, had the perfect kids, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, sometimes you can get into the thing, and you say, oh man, I think we perfectly match. And like I said, you don't know if that person is a monster or not. I mean, you kick around. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and he was like, hey, yeah, this lady messed around, and while her husband was going to work, this is a story of the past. I really don't know when it happened, but, while the man was at work, she went on and killed her 5 kids. I mean, that's sick. But like I said, you don't know what kind of monster you might be getting in a relationship with. And people think that, and not just to say that, but then women go out and chase men, and it's like, oh, he's so handsome, and oh, he got everything I'm looking for, and all this other stuff, and then you find out that, he's abusive, and he, may go upside your head or something, every once in a while, quite frequently, every day, Like I say, people are monsters, and you don't know what to predict from a person if you really don't know them. And then you got things that are even scarier now. Nowadays, people meet people on the internet, and they jump up and leave a city and state and all the people that they know to go have a rendezvous with somebody in some other state, and then they find out that the person ended up missing because they took a chance. I mean, taking chances is not bad, but then if you really don't know somebody, why take a chance like that? So that's one of the things. So let's go back to predictions. We talk about predictions, and you say, well, once you find out that after a little bit of time, after the romance phase of the beginning of a relationship wear off, and you say, oh man, you know what I mean? You say, well, in that before that phase, you say, okay, all right, well, maybe we had kids, and our kids would be like this, and all the kids would be like that, or whatever, and it just don't happen that way, and the kids actually, you find out that you and the person, you say, okay, all right, well, our kids is going to end up this way, and say, hey, well, let's stay on the same track. People say they're going to stay on the same track with you, but they really went on the same track with you in the beginning, because I told you, people have two entities of themselves that they deal with. It's called duality, and it's basically fighting with yourself, whether or not you're going to be good and bad. So what happens is when you end up having kids, with people, then you find out, they say, oh, okay, well, we got to stay on the same page, stay on the same page. So they agree with you in the beginning, but then they start changing the rules in between time. And once they start changing the rules, they say, okay, all right, well, you give the discipline. No, we both are supposed to be given the discipline, because that way we know that the kids are going to be listening to the same rules. But then when you start changing the rules, then that's when the kids start jumping back and forth across the track, trying to see which way they can get away with things. And so basically what ended up happening is they say, okay, mom said I can do this, dad said I can do that, and then if mom and dad, is not communicating because of the possibilities of, the monster came out of each individual, what I'm saying? So now they're not communicating. And then the kids start getting away with a lot more stuff, because then the mom see that dad put forth a discipline or something like that. And then the mom changed the rules and say, hey, you can go ahead and do it, even though your dad said, not to do it. And then, you have a mom say, okay, all right, well, at least I won't be the bad guy in this situation, right? So every time that those type of situations occur in relationships, right, one person stop administering disciplines. Okay, so the dad stop administering disciplines, right? And then with the dad stop administering the disciplines, then the mom have to pick up the role of disciplinarian. And then the mom say, okay, how come you won't discipline the kids? Well, if you think about the factors in between there, you have to actually say, well, every time I offer a discipline, you disagree with the discipline and you allow them to get away with it. And a lot of people in their relationships, they won't tell you these facts. They skate through life also. They go through life and they say, well, they try to make it seem like their life is, really pleasant because that's what they want you to see. It's a mold of life in which people get, or they want other people to be captured in to see that there's, not some type of distress in the household. You can go out here and, think that you're gonna be on the same page, and every person that is actually on one accord with how things go. It may just be one person in the house that administer all the disciplines, but yet and still, there got to be some point where people actually agree. So this is the way I kind of see the stuff, and it's the way that I've been in situations as such. You never know how your kids are going to turn out. You can only hope for the best. You can only, try to give them as many words of wisdom as possible. But you gotta realize that it's not going to be perfect. You got to kind of do whatever you can do, and you got to try to think about how you can make it work for yourself. And in that process, of you raising kids, you really got to put forth your best efforts on trying to, give them the best of your brain. That's all you got is your memories that they're going to be left with even after you pass. So you have to put a lot of effort in trying to feed, even though it may seem difficult and your kids don't want to talk to you and all this other stuff. Trust me, I'm going through the process. But I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to tell you, kids are very trying. There's nothing great about kids after these. Learn how to think for themselves, and they think they're going to do the right thing. And then they want to become adults way before time, but then you still have to test your kids. You put them through certain tests to see if they're going to make the right decisions. Because if you don't test your kids, they might end up, making all the wrong decisions in life. See, but it ain't for you to badger your kids. And see the parents, like, oh, I know you did this. I know you did. How do you know? If you don't go and do your homework and find out whether or not your kids did right or wrong or right, you're in for a big battle, because now you're battling with something that you can't even prove. See, if you're not going to put in the work to find out exactly what you're making accusations of, then you're going to find out that your kids are not going to like you. Your kids, you're not trying to be your kids' friends, but if you make false accusations on stuff that you think they may be doing, and some things you know they're doing. But if you really know, you know. But don't make accusations. Don't make assumptions. Assuming that your kid did something that they probably didn't do. Because that can make a kid despise you. So you gotta be able to pick your battles wisely. And like I say, you can't get hung up on emotions and stuff when you have to make logical decisions, because your emotions will actually cause you sometimes to make incorrect decisions, and it can be way off track. So you have to test your kids on all levels. You got to see where their brain is, just so you can actually get them to become adults. And you got to try to get them to understand that, hey, you're going to have to pay bills. And they need to understand, one time it was, parents used to, spank their kids, which was a good thing. Now people say, no, don't spank your kids. I have people in public say, oh, well, you shouldn't do that or say that to your kids. You shouldn't start out, think. I'm like, look, sounds great, but one thing about it, right? Everybody can't use the same pattern on everybody. It may seem logical. Some things work, some things don't. Everything don't work with everybody. You could go get all the counselors, all the psychologists in the world. Everybody's not 100% accurate. You have to tailor-make everything you do to every individual. That's one thing. Now, along with kids becoming adults, you know, they're gonna make, a lot of mistakes, and hopefully they're good mistakes that actually help them learn. But, with them making, irrational decisions and whatever, um, to become an adult and not be put through tests, they're gonna end up, kind of like belly flopping. You try that, in in a swimming pool, it really don't feel that well. So anyway, the other parts is people thinking deep. Some people think, right, and they only want to think on the surface. So with people thinking on the surface, they say, okay, all right, well, I only want to know what's going to actually get me through this situation. I don't want to know any more than that. And this is how a lot of people think. This is why people don't really see, all the things that's happening around them as far as, with their relationship, with their kids, because they only want to touch the surface, and until it may seem like you're doing yourself some justice by only staying topical, but that surface thinking, right, it really does not solve a lot of, ongoing problems. That's why you have reoccurring problems, because of the simple fact that you're only thinking like on the surface of every given event or circumstance that you have to face. Sometimes, you have to think deep, and thinking deep actually is a requirement of understanding everybody that you are surrounded by. See, therefore, you cannot be affected by the different and multiple personalities that you encounter from day to day, and the people that you're in a relationship with. As far as kids, your spouse, whatever, on each other behalf, whatever, and being able to understand each individual and tailor make your thoughts and your personality to accommodate every single person, right? Not using those same thoughts or tactics on every person around you, you may find yourself accomplishing a lot more within the environment that you're in. See, you can actually, untangle the web that you've been entangled in. So, as for everything, I gotta say, right? Relationships are difficult, but we can all possibly learn from some of this information that I have out here. And the only way that you can actually work through some of the worst relationships is to actually build some type of trust, not based on surface thinking. You really got to spend time. If you want somebody to actually, cater to you a lot more or better, why don't you dig deeper into that person and really find out who they are? Because if you choose to, badger your spouse or your kids, you're going to find that you're not enjoying your life. The only way to do that is to cut the emotional strings. Stop carrying around a lot of baggage, emotional baggage. This emotional baggage, from previous relationships or previous events that happened within a relationship. Trust me, that's difficult. So you guys out there, you can contact me at enjoyyourlife4313 at gmail.com. I'm very glad that you guys are here with me today. Thank you very much. I really enjoy releasing a lot of these thoughts that I have in my head. You guys, for what I'm going to call TV land right now, enjoy your life. Thank you for being with me.